So welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely pumped you're here with us today because, well, we're going to be decoding some of the most fascinating, entirely hidden psychological forces that quietly shape literally everything we do. You know, the human mind is this incredibly complex, beautiful machine, right? But by breaking down the hard science, we can actually start to see the hidden gears turning behind how we act, how we speak, and how we feel.
Let me just start by asking you a really direct question, and I want you to be totally honest with yourself here. Are you actually in control of your choices? I mean, it certainly feels like you are, right? But as we comb through the data today, we're going to seriously challenge those assumptions about free will. We're looking at facts that suggest, well, you might actually just be a passenger in your own mind.
Okay, let's dive into this and map out our journey through the mind today. First up, we'll look at the subconscious autopilot. Second, we'll explore the mind-body connection. Third, we'll map out our social brain. And finally, we're going to uncover the cognitive traps and biases that trick us on a daily basis.
All right, part one, the subconscious autopilot. Who is really driving?
The reality here is that we often completely sleepwalk through our routines. A staggering 95% of our decisions are made entirely subconsciously. Think about that. We are essentially asleep at the wheel for the vast majority of our choices. It perfectly explains those weird moments where you go online just to buy a pair of shoes, and somehow you check out with 20 Blu-rays, a pair of combat pants, and some random magazine subscription. Actually, scratch that. Your conscious brain definitely didn't painstakingly plan that out. Your subconscious just completely took over the driver's seat.
And hey, when we aren't subconsciously buying combat pants, our minds are just drifting. Research actually shows that our minds wander about 30% of the time during an average day, which, ironically, is often right when someone is explaining something crucial to you. But get this, when you're driving on a quiet road, that mind-wandering rate rockets up to a massive 70%. That is wild. Now, take a look at the number 66. Any guesses what this represents in the grand scheme of our daily human behavior?
So here's the deal. Humans are the ultimate creatures of habit. Back in 2009, a massive study at University College London looked into how we actually form routines around daily things like food and exercise. And what they found is that it takes an average of 66 days for a new habit to really lock in. It does not happen overnight. And depending on the person, and obviously the habit itself, it can actually take anywhere from a quick 18 days all the way up to 254 days. So yeah, give yourself a break if that new gym routine is taking a while to stick.
Moving on to Section 2, the mind-body connection, how our thoughts become physical. Now this is where things get slightly wild, because our internal mental states directly hijack our physical biology. If you're one of those people who think emotional pain isn't as real or damaging as physical pain, you might need to think again. The brain and the body are just incredibly closely linked. When your brain is in severe distress, your body literally listens and reacts. Emotional trauma can actually trigger very real physical ailments. We're talking intense headaches or even deep, aching discomfort in your joints. And this whole thing happens because of something called neuropeptides. These are essentially your body's chemical messengers. When you feel a super strong emotion, let's say intense anger, your brain actually uses these neuropeptides to fundamentally reprogram your body's cells. Here is exactly how this biological process plays out. Step 1. You experience the emotion. Step 2, those chemical messengers, the neuropeptides, make direct contact with your cell receptors, meaning angry emotions literally create angry peptides. And step 3, as your cells naturally divide, they spread that programmed anger all across your insides. It is literally like a giant, angry dandelion, just scattering its spores throughout your entire body. But hey, the good news is we can use this mind-body connection to our advantage too. Here is a highly practical psychological hack for you. If you've got a crazy busy schedule, seriously consider painting your office blue. According to a 2006 University of London study, blue is psychologically proven to be the absolute best color to boost your focus, relax your racing mind, and promote a real sense of serenity. It's not just a miserable, feeling blue kind of vibe, it's an absolute productivity powerhouse. All right, Section 3, our social brain, navigating the human network.
You know, our brains aren't just isolated supercomputers, they are fiercely hardwired to connect with others. Now, what's really interesting about this is the hard biological limit on human friendship, 150.
This is famously known as Dunbar's number. So, in the late 20th century, anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed that the theoretical maximum number of friends any human can successfully juggle is right around 150. And this isn't about time management, folks. It's literally a hardware limitation. The layers inside your brain that perform higher functions, specifically your neocortex, are only physically capable of managing up to 150 complex social connections. That's the cap.
And to actually manage those connections, we rely heavily on mirror neurons. These were first discovered back in the early 1990s during a study of macaque monkeys. And these nerve cells are what drive our deep psychological habit of copying and learning from the people around us. It's exactly why contagious behaviors exist in the first place. You know, when someone across the room yawns and you just immediately yawn too, that is literally your mirror neurons doing their job, trying to keep you socially synchronized with the group.
Now, because our brains are just so intensely socially oriented, being deprived of that network is biologically devastating. I mean, sure, enjoying your own company is great, but severe isolation and loneliness take a massive, heavy toll on the brain. Connection is a totally vital part of human life, and without it, we leave ourselves highly vulnerable to really dangerous psychological issues like deep depression. But on the flip side, interacting with the social network can also change our brains in some really unexpected ways, especially when power gets involved. There was a fascinating 2017 study by Dr. Keltner over at UC Berkeley, and it showed that holding a position of high power and authority can actually traumatize the brain. It physically damages your brain's ability to operate with empathy. This massive loss of empathy totally explains how toxic behavior in corporate environments can just so easily go unnoticed by the people sitting at the very top.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, Cognitive Traps and Biases, How We Trick Ourselves.
Despite how incredibly advanced our brains are, they frequently fall victim to their own flawed logic. For example, have you ever noticed that food just inexplicably tastes better when someone else makes it for you? The psychology behind this is entirely based on how our brain handles expectations. Think about it. If you make a sandwich yourself, you know exactly what your skills are and exactly what goes into it. It's totally predictable. But when someone else makes it for you, your expectations are naturally lowered simply because of the unknown. So when you take a bite and it's a delicious surprise, the whole experience lands completely differently in your brain. It's a fun little trick.
Here's another cognitive trap for you. Assuming shorter is always easier. A 2004 study by NC Dyson, looking at text on a screen, found that, completely counterintuitively, people read and digest longer lines of text, we're talking around 100 characters, much faster than short ones. It feels completely wrong when you think about it, but logically and scientifically, it is absolutely right.
Then, of course, we have the infamous sunk cost fallacy. Why do we stubbornly stay in bad relationships or keep pouring money into a failing project just because we've already spent so much time or cash on it? Well, this is a purely subjective cognitive bias. We know it might hurt us, but our brains essentially trick us into throwing good money after bad just to justify our past investments. We just can't let it go.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate trick our brain plays on us, the illusion of control. We genuinely perceive that we are making every conscious choice in our lives. But actually, as we've seen today with our subconscious autopilots and all these sneaky cognitive biases, we are constantly being guided invisibly by forces totally outside of our direct awareness.
You know, people are heavily encouraged to believe they have control because, honestly, without that illusion, our brains simply couldn't handle the sheer unpredictability of reality. We'd all be nervous wrecks. So I want to leave you with this one thought as we wrap up. If 95% of your life is truly run on autopilot, what will you consciously choose to do the exact moment this explainer ends? Thanks so much for learning along with us today.